Dortmund, Chelsea. Dortmund plus 150 at home. Chelsea plus 187 on the road. The draws plus 230. The two advanced. Chelsea minus 163. Dortmund plus 120. These odds, of course, from Bet365. Last 8 matches for Chelsea. 2 wins, 4 draws, 2 losses. 11 total goals. 6 for, 5 against. Those 6 goals have come on 12.5 expected goals. 7.6 expected goals allowed. So a little bit of an overperformance on defense as well. But they didn't look great against West Ham. I think West Ham we've talked about it, they're very stout defense. So not the worst result in the world to get out of there with the draw.
Should have won.
Dortmund, meanwhile, 5 on the spin, 5 wins on the spin since the World Cup. 15 goals scored, 5 against, 10.2 expected goals created in those 5 matches, 5.5 against. To win this tie over 2 legs is going to require Chelsea to score, because Dortmund's going to score. They've kind of shown us that, right? Can you lay minus 163 on Chelsea to advance here? I think we all think that they're kind of due for some regression positively, offensively. I think Graham Potter will eventually figure it out. They kind of look like Potter's Brighton teams from 18, 24 months ago when they were creating and just couldn't finish. I don't hate a look at Chelsea on the 3-way line in the first leg to pull the upset, but boy, I don't trust them over 2 legs to score enough to justify those odds. Anything for you, BJ?
Yeah, I don't hate a look at the over 2.5 goals in this match. So here's what's interesting is that, so I am projecting 2.92 goals for this one, but like you already mentioned, Chelsea due for so much positive regression going forward. But the Dortmund attack has been fantastic all season in the Bundesliga and is only going to improve as we go along for the season. So they're 3rd in the Bundesliga non-penalty expected goals. They've created the second most big scoring chances, 2nd most box entries. And all of that is for a majority of the season with Anthony Modeste as their main out-and-out striker, which we've mentioned, 5,000 times on this podcast. But now they have Sebastian Haller. Ademi is getting more involved in the attack. So now a Chelsea team that, I understand Enzo Fernandez is good, but he doesn't make an entire team. And I think you saw against West Ham that Chelsea is still very, very vulnerable in transition defensively, and especially on set pieces as well. So I do think this is going to be a little bit of a back and forth type match. And Dortmund has been pretty average defensively in the Bundesliga as well. So with the Chelsea attack having some positive regression going forward with it, with the Dortmund attack already being great and already going to be even better going forward in this leg. I mean, even if you go through Dortmund's results and you look at when they've played some of the best competition, they created 1.6 against Bayern. They had a great offensive performance against Manchester City in both legs. So I think this is a back and forth type match. I do like over 2.5 goals, which you can find at minus 105 out there. So I think we're going to see some of that positive regression for Chelsea, and then the Dortmund attack can definitely threaten this Chelsea defense in transition.
Anthony, anything for you real quick?
Yeah, I think it's a contrasting styles, and it's going to be a really interesting matchup. I mean, all 4 of these matches this week, I have projected pretty close to a coin flip. So I am very much excited for this. Like, it is not, and I said this when the draw came out, like, it is not the best betting slate in the world where I'm like chomping at the bit to get down on like this team hammer spot against this team that I think is super overvalued or undervalued, whatever. But this is an interesting tactical matchup because Chelsea wants to play slow and Potter wants game control. And, you talked about Brighton, like what happened after Brighton couldn't finish all their chances for a little while. They got good. But we also don't know what Chelsea is. I mean, I thought they played fine against West Ham in aggregate. They didn't really create much in the second half, which was kind of concerning. They should have had a penalty, but should have had a penalty in stoppage time on a bad chance. Doesn't mean should have won because you didn't really deserve it, even though the call was obviously a handball. So it's kind of tricky to say, but I think we don't know what Chelsea is because they don't even know. Like, they're changing all these players in, and it could click. Could it click this week? I don't know. I'm kind of skeptical. Like, this is the easiest pass on the board for me because I don't really know what we're getting from Chelsea. Dortmund is finally getting healthy too, but they're still kind of bad in transition. I mean, their transition numbers are really poor this year. They're bad defending set pieces, which is always a red flag in these knockout tournaments. So that, you can make a case against for both teams. I don't really have a strong opinion here. I will be interested in about a month when we get some more data on what Chelsea looks like and what Dortmund looks like with these teams being fully fit again and having new players, what it will look like then. These are the two teams where, like, of the 8 playing in this round, or of the 16 playing in this round, I think in terms of like who's a team nobody's talking about that could make a run, it's probably these two, and then Inter for me. Like, those are the 3 where I'm like, oh, if things were to break, like, this team could be really dangerous in a year where there is no dominant team at the top.